Kholat is a first-person horror exploration game based around the true events of the Dyatlov Pass incident. Atmosphere. Kholat starts off slow, but there's a feeling of unearthly menace about some of the locations you visit, like something is watching you or you're trespassing somewhere you shouldn't be. The remaining buildings are derelict or destroyed, and the natural areas like the burnt forest or the cave system feel supernatural in some way. Many areas feel electrically charged, and it raises anticipation for something to happen. Even some of the empty valleys have a sense of foreboding as you travel them, with harsh blizzards obscuring your sight. There are bewildering and mysterious things too, like the tree that seems to be in a sound bubble or the sudden darkness near the hut. But for the large majority of the map there's nothing, just the snow and the sound of the wind blowing. The slow walking pace and the sheer size of the area makes walking around it pretty boring, but it's the largest part of the game. The area is too big, and even though you can fast travel between campfires, you need to walk to them first to unlock them. Kholat manages to create a lot of creepy, unsettling atmospheres in small pockets around the map, but they're sandwiched between a lot of meandering nothing. But what it does achieve in those small pockets is more memorable than the spaces in between them. That's one Harry Mason. Scares. The game has a shot at trying to create scary moments with mixed success. The game's enemies are nearly transparent and difficult to see, but they kill you in a single hit, which causes you to go back to the last note you picked up. Sometimes these deaths are very cheap and unavoidable, with enemies blocking the only path out of an area, and if you're a long way from the last note, then you've got to walk all the way back and hope it doesn't happen again. It gets to the point where the threat of dying and being forced to go back is more frightening than dying itself, and in areas like the dark valley near the hut, where it's difficult to see, filled with monsters who react to the flashlight and hidden spike traps that blend in with the snow awaiting below you, it's completely nerve-wracking since it's a long way to the last note and death is waiting all around you. Other parts of the game, like the chase sequence away from the throne room, just didn't do anything for me. It felt like it was trying too hard to be frightening. There were one or two scripted events that caught me off guard, like the spawning monster when you enter the underground tunnel, or even something as simple as a branch breaking as you cross it. Sometimes the amount of nothing you traverse when moving between areas allows you to let your guard down, which is when the game surprises you. Kholat does have one or two frightening moments, but it's an even smaller part of the game in comparison to how much walking there is to get through to experience it. That's still one Harry Mason. Sound design. The soundtrack uses a lot of strings, and the slow orchestral pieces paint this already desolate land with an extra layer of barren nothingness. There's some really beautifully sad pieces that play during the opening sections, but there's also some alien-sounding dark ambient that reaches into your mind with these echoey warbles and synth howls. The game also has an unusual set of sound effects, from deep creaking as if the trees in the mountainside are buckling under the weight of something, and these low horns that sound straight out of something from Silent Hill 4. The voice acting from Sean Bean and the others are all amazing, and the way their lines cut through the sound of the wind is fantastic. There's some great directional audio to help you identify where notes are, which is implemented well. There are some minor bugs when the music just ceases randomly, but it's really minor stuff. That's 2 Harry Masons. Gore. There wasn't any blood, but there didn't seem to need to be any. Any blood that did exist would have been lost in the snowstorms, so it makes sense there isn't any. That's 3 Harry Masons. Story. The Dyatlov Pass incident is a real-life event where a group of hikers died on mysterious circumstances, and the game takes a lot of creative liberties to come up with an explanation of how the hikers died. It does it through collecting notes, diary entries, and through the ramblings of Sean Bean as some form of antagonist. I personally found the story really hard to understand, as I was getting different parts of different stories and found it all confusing, with some stories seemingly not reaching their conclusion before the credits rolled. Through this fragmented storyline, it was hard to tell what was happening. The game follows some kind of surveyor as he inspects the aftermath of the event, some hikers, which I assume to be part of the original team, and Sean Bean's character, who talks like a supernatural entity. I found a lot of things didn't make a lot of sense, but your mileage may vary based on how many notes you find. The map is very large, and there are a lot of them. Overall, it felt like another tired story of secret experiments in the mountains. There was even a film that used the Dyatlov Pass as a basis and came to the same generic conclusion of failed science experiments. How much of the story you perceive is based on how many notes you find, but it's not very inspiring stuff for me, making the final score 3 out of 5 Harry Masons. The size of the map is a problem. While it's great to try and be realistic, and the developers probably wanted to space out the areas you visit, it turns a large portion of the game into a slow and boring scavenger hunt for notes in a winter tundra. Its music and atmosphere are excellent when they come in, but for the most part, they don't. Again, I'd like to remind you the whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games. If you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I didn't look at the moon the same way again, I did not scream like a banshee or run away from the computer. I advise you don't either. There are more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. Let's go check out Bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.